Hello, everybody. My name is Casca30, and welcome to my second deck profile of this month. And today we're going to be talking about the legendary modern decks. Now, typically, what everyone's been looking at has been the mix between Sky Striker and Mitsurugi, but today we're going to be specifically talking about Mitsurugi by itself, using three of the legendary modern decks that you can buy in stores or online. Hope you enjoy the list. I'll show you some combos afterwards. Let's get into it. Alrighty, starting off our deck list, we're going to get to the monsters. You're going to want to start off with 3 copies of Mitsurugi Aramasa. Aramasa is a fantastic starter that says if you normal or special summon this card, you can add a Mitsurugi monster from the deck to your hand. This is a really good 1-card starter that can get you straight into your Mitsurugi combo. Then you're going to want to run 1 copy of Saji. Saji's another really good starter you can go into, whether or not he's in your deck or your hand, because of Habakiri. Then you're going to want 1 copy of Kusanagi. Kusanagi is another fantastic starter, just as the last 4 were, simply just because you can target any Mitsurugi card in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. That can really help extend your combos or even start them. Then you're going to want 2 copies of Murakumo. Now, I wasn't really set on the whole idea of 2 copies of Murakumo. At the time, that's what I was going to work with, and that's kind of what I had to use. But you can really change it out with whatever you feel like. It's a really good interruption, and can really stop your opponent from doing what they want to do. Then we run, of course, the 1 copy of Habakiri. Habakiri is a fantastic one-of, simply because you're forced to one. If he wasn't, I'd run probably more. And he's a fantastic starter. He can get you out any of your Mitsurugi just off of his effect alone. Then we run 1 copy of Mitama. Similar to the last deck profile that I did, I really only ran Mitama because he's a really big body on the field, and whether or not you even get his effect to go off, he's really tough to get through. Then we run 2 copies of Manju of 10,000 Hands. Manju of 10,000 Hands is just another starter for the deck. Helps you get into your ritual monsters or your ritual spells a whole lot easier. Then we got 1 copy of Night Sword Serpent. Night Sword Serpent is a pretty decent card that when it's into the graveyard, by card effect, you can special summon it, and it just kind of helps you get out your rituals. Then we got 3 copies of Mutomi Fuwalos. There are other hand traps you can run in this deck. I opted with Fuwalos since I had a few extra laying around, and it's just really good in case you have to go second. Then we got 3 copies of Ash Blossom Joy Spring. Pretty important staple for really any deck, no matter what you're playing, unless, of course, there are certain card effects that don't allow you to. That's it for the monsters, and let's get in to the spells. Alrighty, starting off our spells, we're going to go with a pretty important card in this deck, Mitsurugi Prayers. The Mitsurugi Prayers doesn't seem all that good on paper to someone who's new to the deck, but Mitsurugi Prayers is a very, very, very important card that is a 1-card combo that allows you to go straight into your Mitsurugi stuff. No matter if you have it in hand per se, and you have a Saji that gets negated, or one of your other starters gets negated, Mitsurugi Prayers is a great way to bounce back right into your combo. Then we run 1 copy of Mitsurugi Magatama. I didn't really have a reason specifically why I wanted to run this card, due to me just needing to round out the 40 card total, but Mitsurugi Magamata is fantastic in case you don't have a way to target your ritual or your mirror and need a free ritual summon. Plus, it has a fantastic effect to destroy a card. Then, on our previous topic, we're running 3 copies of Mitsurugi Ritual. Mitsurugi Ritual is a fantastic card to have in the deck, especially at 3 of. If you draw into it early on, it can really help out your Mitsurugi plays. Then we got 1 copy of Mitsurugi Mirror. I thought about running more than one, but I didn't really see any reason in doing it, since it's a card you can get out super easily, whether it's from the deck or the grave. Then we have 3 copies of pre-preparation of rights. Pre-preparation of rights is again, just like every other card that we've talked about, basically. It's another starter that you can go into that can get you your ritual monsters and your ritual spells. Then we run 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. The extra deck is really more just of a pile of tools, if you will, and we need something to kind of make the deck a little more consistent, and Pot of Extravagance is a fantastic way to do that. Then, to round off our spells, we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. Forbidden Droplet was a pretty easy choice. Since you're going to have a positive hand most of the time, Forbidden Droplet is a fantastic monster or spell negate. Sorry, no, monster negate. To really stop your opponent from doing what they want to do. That's it for the spells. And let's get into the traps. Now, starting off our traps, we're actually only running 4 traps. Just like with most decks in the current meta, you don't really need traps to make the deck work well, unlike a lot of cards from previous metas. So, we're going to start off with just 1 Miracle Great Purification. It's a really solid negate that you can get off of tributing a monster, and that tributing of a monster can help get out a lot of your tributing effects. Then we run 3 copies of Imperm. Imperm came in the Legendary Modern Decks set, and since you get so many of them from buying 3, it is a fantastic card to use in this deck. That's it for the traps, and let's get into that extra deck. Alrighty, now starting off our extra deck. This is really more of just a toolbox of sorts to hit with our Pot of Extravagance. So we don't need to use too many of these cards that are in our extra deck, but we did go for 15, so we could get the most use of possible out of Pot of Extravagance. Starting off, we have Dynamundo. Dynamundo is a really good card that came with the Mitsurugi deck, actually, that requires 2 monsters, including a ritual monster, that can actually help you recycle all of your ritual monsters and bring them back. Then you run 2 copies of IP. IP is really straightforward, pretty good for really any deck. The reason why we're running 2 is so that we have an applicable target for our Pot of Extravagance. SP Little Knight is going to be at 2. SP Little Knight is also a very straightforward card that is really good in just about any deck that can interrupt our opponent from making good plays. We also run 2 for the same reason we run 2 IP. Then we got 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer. You can use him as a target for your Pot of Extravagance, but you really don't need to. He's more there for any matches in the Sky Striker or even mirror matches where there's going to be a lot of dark type monsters in the graveyard. Then we got 2 copies of Evilswarm Exciton Knight. Exciton Knight is a great way to board wipe. It's a fantastic board wipe. In a lot of your starters are going to be level 4, so if you don't get rid of your starters, you can turn your starters into these rank 4s that are coming up, or even Exciton Knight to mess with your opponent. Then we got 1 copy of Tornado Dragon. Tornado Dragon is just a really good way to get their back row gone and dealt with, especially in the Sky Striker. Then we have 1 copy of Dugaris the Timeless. Dugaris, for me, I used to run a lot of Dark World, and Dugaris really carried that deck. And seeing Dugaris in this deck made me think there's a possible chance for Dugaris to do the same here. Then we got 1 copy of Baguska. Baguska is a great card to run, especially to stun lock the opponent out of doing certain actions that would probably give them the win. We have 1 copy of Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. Number 90 is a really good negate for just about anything, and it's really easy to get into since it's a level 8, or a rank 8, and all your monsters are level 8. Then, to round off the 15, we have 1 copy of Typhon. Typhon is a fantastic card, especially in decks that are a little slower, or even a little heavier at the beginning, but slower at the end, to stop your opponent from beating you down with their overly aggressive plays. That's it for the extra deck. I do hope you enjoyed the list, and I'm going to show you some combos. Alright, just got the deck all nice and shuffled up, and I'm going to be showing you a combo or two, probably just one, on how you can play this deck and really what you can do with it. Let's go ahead and put this down. Got our extra deck up here. And I'll go ahead and draw 5 cards and really show you what this deck is capable of. Now, granted, we're going to be doing this as if we're not playing against any hand traps, because that's, the ideal setup, of course. And it looks like we got 1 Koalos, a Prayers, 1 Manju, a Pre-Prep, and an Ash. Now, there's a lot we can do with this. We have 3 stars in our hand. That is a fantastic. But I think what I'm going to do this time around is I'm going to focus on just Prayers and see what we can do with just the 1 card in our hand. So let's avoid this. And we're going to focus on Mitsurugi Prayers. So starting off, of course, we're going to activate Mitsurugi Prayers, just like how we did in the last video I made, showing off my combos for that Agreedus Pile deck. This is how we're going to do our combos. Now, additionally, you might want to do these a little differently than I do, because I only know certain combos. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab a Habakiri. And then we're going to go ahead and activate our Habakiri. Habakiri's effect is going to go out, and we're going to special summon Asagi. And Asagi is going to be the target for our tribute summon, so he's going to get tributed. And then in a new chain, Asagi's effect will activate, allowing us to search our deck for a Mitsurugi spell or trap. Our target of choice is going to be a Mitsurugi Ritual. And then we're going to activate that Mitsurugi Ritual, tributing our Habakiri as cost to go into our deck and grab our copy of Murakumo. Then Habakiri's effect is going to activate. And we're going to grab ourselves a copy of Mitsurugi Mirror. Then, instead of summoning him out as per his effect, we're actually going to choose the optional of not doing that. Then we're going to want to activate Mitsurugi Mirror to tribute our Murakumo, targeting our Habakiri, summoning him back, and then our Mitsurugi effect is going to activate. Our Murakumo effect will activate, allowing us to search our deck for any Mitsurugi card. So I think our choice of Mitsurugi card is going to be our Kusanagi. And then our Kusanagi is going to, or sorry, not Kusanagi, our Murakumo will bring itself back. And then we're going to want to normal summon our Kusanagi. And then Kusanagi's effect is, it will activate, and we're going to add any of our Mitsurugi cards from the graveyard to the hand. And we're going to use Mitsurugi Ritual. Then we're going to activate Mitsurugi Ritual using its secondary effect. Using Kusanagi and Manju to tribute and summon from our deck our fabled and totally important Mitama from the deck. And then since I don't believe, yeah, no. And that's that's our 1 card combo that can go into 3 monsters. And we still have these 3 cards in hand in case you'd like to extend it in anything. Let's go ahead and try out a secondary combo. Alrighty, we got our deck shuffled up. We're going to go ahead and draw 5 and see what we can do with it. Pre-prep, Mikoto, or Kusanagi, Mitama, Ash, and an Aramasa. Now I think for this part, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to focus on our copy of Aramasa as a 1-card combo. And we'll have this face up because I'm sure we're going to need to go into this a little soon after. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with our Aramasa. We're going to normal summon him, allowing us to search for any Mitsurugi monster in our deck and add it to our hand. And that's going to give us our copy of Habakiri. Then, once that resolves, you're going to want to go ahead and activate the effect of Habakiri. And you're going to want to go ahead and search through your deck, and you're going to want to find Saji. And go ahead and summon out Saji. And we're going to use, and for our attributing cost, we're actually going to target Saji instead. And then we're going to search our deck, after this resolves, of course, for a Mitsurugi spell or trap. And that's going to be Mitsurugi Ritual. Then you're going to want to activate Mitsurugi Ritual, attributing our Habakiri in hand, to go ahead and summon out our Murakumo. Then Habakiri's effect is going to go ahead and activate. And we're going to bring out our Mitsurugi Mirror. Then we're going to actually, for this hand specifically, we're going to bring back Habakiri. And then we're going to activate Mitsurugi Mirror, targeting our Murakumo, contribute it, and ritual summon into our Mitama. Then the effect of Murakumo will activate, allowing us to search our deck for any Mitsurugi card. Then I would probably go ahead and grab a copy of, I'd say either your either your trap or your Magamata, just for those free destruction effects. And if you really want to try and go a little further with the combo, you could probably grab another Aramasa for next turn. But I think for this, I'm going to grab our Purification, add that to the hand, and then bring back our Murakumo. That's all we can do with just Aramasa, giving us a really big guy on board. Probably should put that in defense, of course. An interruption, and another big guy on board. That's the first one. Let's get the second one. Let's get on to the third one. So for this third combo, we're actually going to keep a hold of our previous hand and instead do everything with just pre-preparation of rites. So we're going to go ahead and start that off with activating pre-preparation of rites, searching our deck for a ritual spell, and then a ritual monster. So we're going to add a Habakiri, and then a Mitsurugi Mirror. Now that you have these two cards in hand, you're going to go ahead and activate your Habakiri, and then Habakiri is going to do its own little sequence, as have the last few set of cards. Now this time, instead of tributing our Saji, oh, sorry, we have to tribute the Saji, actually, my apologies. We're going to tribute our Saji, and then its effect is going to activate. So we search our deck, and we're going to want to search our deck for that Mitsurugi Ritual. And then we're going to activate this Mitsurugi ritual, attributing our Mitama to go ahead and summon out our Murakumo. Then we're going to activate Mitama's effect to go ahead and search. We're going to go ahead and search our deck for a Mitsurugi Prayers. And we're going to go ahead and summon back our Mitama. Then you're going to want to activate your Mitsurugi Mirror, tributing our Murakumo, and summoning out our Habakiri. The Murakumo's effect is going to activate, and I'm going to go with another copy of Great Purification, because it's a fantastic card to have. And then Murakumo is going to come back. Here's where it gets a little interesting. Since we actually have access to our Mitsurugi Prayers this time around, we're going to activate it, and instead of adding a Mitsurugi monster, we're actually going to take the 800 damage, ouch, and we're going to special summon a Mitsurugi monster from the hand or graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and summon out Saji from the grave. And then we're going to normal summon our Masa. Our Masa effect is going to go ahead and go through our deck. And we're going to add our final copy of Murakumo to the hand. And now that we have these two level 4s out, we can really go into whatever we feel like. Whether that's Baguska, Exciton, or Dugaris, or we can even go into one of our links. Doesn't really matter what you do. But I think for this, I'm going to test out and see what happens if we go with Dugaris. Because I like gambling. Gambling's my kind of thing. So we're going to overlay into Dugaris. And then we're going to activate its effect. And detach 2, and we're going to do the draw 2 discard. And we're going to discard our Murakumo, because we can get that out later through graveyard effects. Now that we have all that done, and a little differently, instead of going into Dugaris, you could probably go into an Exciton Knight. That'd be a little odd based off of your field. Or you could go into Baguska, which is a fantastic thing to go into, just if you kind of want to stop your opponent from attacking, or even if, you have some kind of effects that keep your opponent from doing anything if they're in defense. So I think just about everything for that combo. For our 3 combos that I'm showing you, off of first turn, we started the turn with 5, and we ended with 5. I believe that's everything that I can show you. I do hope you enjoy this deck list, and you really find some time to really get into it and understand it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have a good rest of your day, night, or afternoon.